All right, so today we're going to be looking into a uh, tough topic,
Yeah.
domestic abuse. And you may have heard about the case of Alex Skeel,
Right.
young man from England. But we're going way beyond the headlines, to really trying to understand how something so horrific could even happen.
Hmm.
We've got excerpts from a really detailed account of his ordeal, and I have to say,
Yeah, wow.
it's been a real eye-opener for me going through all this.
What I think is so compelling about this case is that it really shows how insidious coercive control is as a form of abuse.
Yeah.
We often think about domestic abuse as primarily physical,
Right.
but Alex's story, I think, really shows us just how devastating that psychological manipulation can be.
Absolutely. To really kind of grasp this whole thing, let's start with Alex before the abuse even took hold.
Okay.
He seemed to have like a pretty ordinary upbringing in Luton, close to his family, good friends. Like,
Yeah, just a normal kid.
yeah,
Yeah, and, establishing that baseline is really important because it highlights that domestic abuse can happen to anyone.
right.
It don't discriminate.
Okay, so then enters Jordan Worth.
Mm-hmm.
Alex was 16 when they started dating. And at first it was just like any typical teenage romance,
First love.
Yeah, puppy love, all that stuff.
Yeah.
But looking back, there were some subtle red flags, I think, even then.
There were. And what's interesting is that even in those early stages,
Yeah.
the source material mentions things like accusations of infidelity,
Oh, wow.
attempts to isolate Alex from his friends and family,
Mm-hmm.
this constant need to control his every move.
It's almost like that analogy of a frog in boiling water, right?
Yeah.
Like the temperature rises so slowly you don't realize you're in danger
Until it's too late.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that gradual escalation, that's a classic hallmark of coercive control.
Yeah.
It's often so subtle and insidious that victims don't realize that they're being manipulated.
Right.
They think it's normal relationship stuff.
Yeah.
A little jealousy here and there.
Mm-hmm.
But over time, it becomes this web of control.
Yeah, and tragically for Alex, things took a really dark turn when he was 21.
Oh,
The violence escalated sharply,
wow.
and the source material goes into some pretty graphic detail about the physical attacks, food deprivation, being locked in the house. He was even stabbed in the leg at one point.
Oh, my gosh.
It's hard to imagine the terror he must have been living with.
It's important to understand that physical violence is just one aspect of coercive control.
Yeah.
It's about an abuser using a whole range of tactics,
Right.
both physical and psychological,
Yeah.
to dominate their victim.
Yeah.
They might use threats,
Mm.
intimidation, isolation, and constant criticism to chip away at a person's self-esteem
Right.
and make them feel totally dependent.
And that's what makes this so terrifying, right?
Yeah.
It's not just about, like you said, the bruises and broken bones. It's
Yeah.
about breaking down someone's spirit,
Yeah.
their sense of self. It's mental and emotional torture.
Absolutely, and you can see how that played out in Alex's case.
Yeah.
The source material describes Jordan as incredibly manipulative.
Right.
She convinced him that no one would believe him,
Oh, wow.
that he was worthless without her.
Gosh.
She cut him off from any support system he might have had.
It's heartbreaking to think about someone being so controlled and isolated.
Yeah.
But that isolation is a key part of how abusers maintain their power, right?
It is. Think about it.
Yeah.
If you're constantly being told that you're worthless, that no one cares about you, and you have no one to turn to, you start to believe it.
Yeah.
You become trapped in this world where the abuser is the only source of validation, the only one who understands you.
So by June of 2017, Alex was at his breaking point.
Wow.
The source material paints a really disturbing picture of his physical and mental state at that time.
Yeah.
He was emaciated from the food deprivation, covered in injuries, and completely isolated from anyone who could help him.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, he had lost so much weight that he was barely recognizable.
It's chilling to think what might have happened if things had gone on any longer.
I know.
And this is where the physical and psychological abuse really converge
Right.
to create a life-threatening situation.
Yeah.
Alex's body was failing, and his mind was under Jordan's complete control.
Wow.
He was a prisoner in his own home.
It's unbelievable that he was able to reach out for help in that state.
Yeah, what do you think finally pushed him to that point?
Yeah.
Was it just sheer desperation?
I mean, it's hard to say for sure, but it's clear that even in that vulnerable state,
Yeah.
something inside him knew that he couldn't go on like that.
Right.
And he managed to contact his family and a neighbor.
Wow.
And that intervention was absolutely
Oh,
critical. It
absolutely.
literally saved his life.
Wow.
I can't even imagine the shock that, like, his family must have felt when they saw him.
Right.
This was their son, their
Uh,
brother, and he was just practically a skeleton covered in cuts and bruises.
it's a reminder that domestic abuse can happen anywhere to anyone.
Yeah.
It's often hidden behind closed doors, and the victims may be too ashamed or afraid to speak out.
Mm-hmm.
And in Alex's case, the abuse had been going on for years,
Right.
and it took a neighbor and his family stepping in to finally break that cycle of control.
And thank goodness they did.
Absolutely.
Alex was immediately rushed to the hospital where doctors confirmed just how serious his condition was.
Right.
He was suffering from malnutrition, dehydration infections, a whole host of other injuries.
It's terrifying to think what might have happened if he hadn't gotten help when he did.
Yeah.
It really highlights the importance of recognizing the signs of domestic abuse
Yeah.
and knowing how to intervene.
Mm-hmm.
It can be difficult, especially if the victim is reluctant to talk about what's happening.
Right.
But sometimes just letting them know that you're there for them, that you believe them, can make a world of difference.
So once Alex was safe and recovering in the hospital, the legal wheels started turning.
Yeah.
Jordan Worth was arrested and charged with a long list of offenses, including grievous bodily harm and controlling and coercive behavior.
Right.
This was serious stuff.
Yeah, and this is where Alex's case becomes really significant.
Okay.
You see, coercive control can be incredibly difficult to prove in court.
Oh, really?
It's not always as straightforward as physical assault.
Right.
It often relies on the victim's testimony and the ability to demonstrate a pattern of manipulation and psychological abuse.
And in this case, the evidence against Jordan was overwhelming.
Yeah.
The physical injuries, the witness testimonies from Alex's family and neighbors,
Right.
it all painted a very clear picture of the systematic abuse that she had inflicted on him.
And what's remarkable is that the jury actually convicted her on those charges. It was a landmark case, one of the first in England, where coercive control was successfully prosecuted.
Wow.
It sent a clear message that this type of abuse is just as serious as physical violence
Yeah.
and will be punished accordingly.
That must have been a huge victory, not just for Alex, but for other victims of coercive control, too.
It was a turning point
Yeah.
in how the legal system deals with domestic abuse.
Mhm.
And it also highlighted the importance of giving voice to male victims
Right.
who are often overlooked or dismissed.
Yeah, that's so true. There's still this stigma around men being victims of domestic abuse.
Right.
It somehow makes them less masculine or something.
Right.
But Alex's case shows the world that anyone can be a victim, regardless of gender.
Exactly. And his story also highlights the incredible resilience of the human spirit.
Yeah.
Despite the horrific ordeal he went through, Alex didn't retreat into silence.
Right.
He used his experience to become a powerful advocate for other victims of domestic abuse.
He did. He started working with organizations like the Mankind Initiative,
Yeah.
raising awareness about the often hidden issue of male victims.
Mm-hmm.
And his BBC Three documentary, Abused by My Girlfriend, was so powerful.
It was.
It gave a voice to so many men who had suffered in silence.
It's amazing how he turned his trauma into a platform for change.
Yeah.
He went from being a victim to a survivor to an advocate inspiring others to come forward and seek help.
It's a testament to his strength and determination,
It is.
but it also speaks volumes about the importance of providing support and resources
Right.
for victims of domestic abuse.
Absolutely.
If Alex hadn't had those organizations to turn to, who knows what might have happened?
Having access to support groups, counseling, legal aid, all of those things can be crucial in helping someone escape an abusive relationship and rebuild their lives.
Right.
And it's important to remember that the healing process takes time.
Yeah.
There's no magic wand that can erase the trauma of abuse.
Right.
But with the right support, people can and do recover
Right.
and go on to live happy, fulfilling lives.
And that brings us to a really important takeaway from this deep dive.
Yeah.
Even in the darkest of times, there is always hope.
Yeah.
There are resources available, people who care, and a path toward healing and recovery.
Yeah. It's truly inspiring to see how Alex has turned his pain into purpose.
Yeah.
He's living proof that there's life after abuse and that sharing your story can make a real difference. It absolutely can. And his story really emphasizes a point that we need to keep hammering home.
Yeah.
Domestic abuse can happen to anyone, regardless of gender.
Right.
You know, we have to break down those stereotypes that limit our understanding of who can be a victim and who can be an abuser.
Yeah.
It's crucial that we offer support to all victims, no matter who they are.
So much of this just comes down to awareness, right?
Right.
Recognizing those red flags early on. And
Yeah.
and it's not always about black eyes and broken bones. It's
Right.
it's the subtle stuff.
Exactly.
The manipulation, the isolation, the way an abuser slowly chips away at your sense of self.
Exactly. And that's why it's so important to talk about this,
Yeah,
to educate people about the different forms that abuse can take, because you never know.
right.
Someone listening to this might be in a situation right now where they're questioning whether what they're experiencing is actually abuse,
Hmm.
or they might know someone who's trapped in this kind of dynamic.
And that's where we all have a responsibility to speak up, right? Yeah.
If you see something that seems off, don't just brush it aside.
Right.
Trust your gut. It could be a friend, a family member, a coworker, even a stranger.
Hmm.
You might be the only person who notices that something's wrong.
Absolutely. And you don't have to be an expert to help.
Right.
Sometimes just listening, offering a shoulder to cry on, or letting someone know that there are resources available can be enough.
Yeah.
There are organizations like the Mankind Initiative and the National Domestic Violence Hotline that provide support guidance and even legal aid to those in need.
Alex's story is a powerful reminder that even in the darkest of moments, there's always a glimmer of hope.
Mm,
Recovery is possible.
absolutely.
Healing is possible, and there's life on the other side of abuse.
Yes.
But it takes courage to speak up, to reach out, and to break free from that cycle of control. You know, while we've focused on the victim's experience today, and rightfully so,
Right.
it is worth considering the bigger picture here.
Yeah.
What leads someone to become an abuser in the first place?
That's a good question.
What are the societal factors that contribute to this kind of violence?
Yeah.
These are complex questions that we need to keep exploring if we truly want to prevent these tragedies from happening.
That's such an important point. Alex's story isn't just a call to action for individuals.
Right.
It's a call to action for society as a whole.
Yeah.
We need to challenge those cultural norms and power dynamics that allow abuse to flourish.
Mm.
We need to create a world where everyone feels safe and respected in their relationships.
And we need to keep talking about this.
Yeah.
The more we talk about domestic abuse, the less stigma there will be and the more likely victims are to come forward and seek help.
Absolutely. So if you've been touched by Alex's story or by anything we've discussed today, please know that you're not alone.
Right.
There are people who care, and there is help available.
Yes.
Remember, there is always hope, and there is always a path toward healing and a brighter future.
A brighter future, absolutely.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
If you enjoyed this video and want to dive deeper into more cases like this one, make sure to subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to like the video if you found the story compelling, and share it with your friends and family who might be interested in true crime and mysteries. By subscribing, you'll stay up to date with all our latest content and join a growing community of curious minds exploring the most fascinating cases. Click the notification bell so you never miss an upload. Your support means everything.